this comes down to patterns of people pleasing, patterns of where you have put others before you. This is directly related to how much you self-sabotage, because you can be the absolute most disciplined, hardworking, like that's it, if I say this is happening person in the world. And I know not everyone is like but I'm just saying, if that happened to be you, even at that level of like anybody else looking at you would be like, holy shit, you are so disciplined. You do what you're going to say. You just like, you are like a machine. Even at that level, this sabotage is so prominent and it's so debilitating, because it's literally like you're being told your reality, what you're creating is literally telling you, well, you're not who you say you are. You say that you're going to show up. You say that you're going to follow through on this stuff. You project to the whole world that you are capable of this and that you're doing it, but actually you're fucking it all up. And that kind of break to your self-esteem, to your self-knowing, to your self-trust, to your integrity with yourself is so debilitating. It is really fucking horrible. And I say this from, like I said, I know not everyone is at that level of like discipline. I know I am. I always have been. So I know what it's like if you are literally at that level and still sabotaging. There is something going on that is so much deeper than this. And if you're not at that level, then this is getting even more blown out of proportion. So let me get to what it is. Say hey, by the way, if you're jumping on. So this sneaky sabotage is coupled with people pleasing, in the sense that it will prop up in all of the little moments of your life where you're not focused on your particular goal. It's nothing to do with these goals that you've set yourself, these new routines that you've set yourself, this new, like, this is how I'm going to do things from now on. These are my, new routines, my new patterns, my new structures. It's got actually nothing to do with that. It's got to do with how you react in all of the situations that life throws at you on a day-to-day basis. So let me give you some examples. You come home after work or whatever it is that you're doing throughout the day. You know that your structure is, you already had your food planned, for example, all of this stuff, and your partner goes, or someone around you goes, oh, I'm gonna grab some of this stuff. I'm gonna go get this takeaway or whatever it is. Do you want to get something? And you go, no, I've got my own stuff. And then something switches and you're like, oh, but it'd be nice to eat this with them. It'd be nice to have this, this thing, because I've been, so we've been eating all separate foods and stuff, and now it'd be nice to kind of have that same thing that we're having tonight. And you don't realize that it's a people-pleasing thing. You think that it's just you wanting something for yourself, when actually you're uncomfortable with the idea of what you think or how you think they're going to feel about you just sitting there having what you plan to have and them having their own meal or whatever it is. There's a level of like, this is more important. That person is more important. That potential situation that I'm creating with them, that relationship, that's, that scenario of us eating this together is more important. It's when you know that you want to go somewhere on the weekend and you have it all planned and you're ready to go, and then somebody suggests, you know what, how about we go over here instead? And you're like, oh, I was really looking forward to that, but look how excited they are, and oh yeah, you know what, like I do enjoy that anyway. So it's so fucking sneaky, because you don't actually feel like you're really sacrificing something. You feel like you're like, oh, I'll enjoy that anyway. I'll do the other thing another time. It's fine. And you don't realize how in that moment you are losing integrity with yourself, because you know what you want, you know what you desired. This isn't, this is nothing to do with when you literally just change your mind, which is allowed. That's absolutely fine. You have full permission to just change your mind on whatever it is that you're doing. This is when something outside of you impacts it, and you find yourself leaning into this change that you don't really want. If you're being really, really honest, you kind of wanted what it is that you set out to do, but it's not so bad. It's only a little thing. And, oh, you know what? I'll enjoy that anyway. Oh, it'll be okay anyway. I'll just settle for this. We're sitting down and they're putting on, I was going to sit here and listen to a podcast or whatever, but someone's put on a TV show or a movie or whatever. And, oh, you know what? I'm going to sit here and watch it with them. And it's all of these little, tiny little things throughout the day. It can be obviously at home. It can be at work. It can be anywhere that you go, where you're finding yourself drawn out of your commitments, out of your choices, into somebody else's, and you're excusing it and making it okay because it's not that big a deal. You don't mind doing it. Of course you don't mind doing it because you have a pattern of people pleasing. That's literally the point, right? When we have that ingrained in us from such a young age, which so many of us do, and absolutely, I was, the height of this. I hated the idea that I would make anybody uncomfortable, that I would make anybody question themselves, that I would make anything other than perfect and pristine, right? I hated that idea. It made me very, very, very uncomfortable. And that was exactly the reason why I needed to address this, why I needed to handle it and actually see it for what it was when it propped up, to be like, oh, okay, so I am actually not following through. I am actually in those little tiny moments destroying that integrity that I've built with myself, because I think it doesn't have anything to do with it. It might be, my goals might be all around my morning routines, for example, and how I get up in the morning. But then in the evenings, all of this other stuff is happening. And I think it's got nothing to do with it because my morning routines are still solid and I'm sticking to my goals and I'm doing it all. But I'm not realizing that to my body, the situations don't matter, the specifics, like what is going on, who's involved, what's the exact scenario, can you please give me a play-by-play? None of that matters to our bodies. They hold and they store these memories as feelings, emotions within our body. And so it doesn't matter to them what the scenario is, it just matters to them that it's happening. And so even though you might be sticking to something in one area, when all of this other stuff comes up and you find yourself self-sabotaging, where you're taking away from what you truly want or not actually holding to integrity for yourself, suddenly that starts getting broken down. And this is where I say that this gets really, really freaking sneaky, because then here you are, for example, nailing your morning routine, getting it done, like you're weeks in, you're still going, you're so proud. And it seems like out of nowhere, it just collapses. Something happens and you just don't. You just don't get up. You don't do your meditation. You don't go exercise. You just, one morning, you just don't do it. And you're so hard on yourself and you feel like shit, and you tell yourself, well, gee, wow, I've really screwed it up now. Like, what, can't I even follow through on this? And what you're missing in that moment is that didn't just happen out of nowhere. That wasn't like, oh, I'm nailing it every single day, and then this morning I'm just not. That was the build-up of every other area of your life that in that time you had been allowing sabotage to creep in, that you had not been in integrity with yourself, and without realizing it, that it was building up and building up and building up in your body. When it got to a point of, the breaking point, basically, right? When we think of our bodies, that's essentially what they are designed to do in every way that you can imagine, like disease, right? Disease is not something that happens overnight. It is something that your body is trying to deal with, a toxin, a way of lifestyle, whatever it is that that's happening. It's trying to combat it. It's trying to deal with it. It's trying to bring you back to a homeostasis as best as it can for as long as it can, until that moment when there's a breaking point and it's like, well, now I can't fucking do this anymore. Like this is it. I can't hold out these toxins anymore. I can't handle what you've been feeding me. I can't handle what you've been drinking. I can no longer detoxify and clean you out sufficiently. So here is the disease. And it looks like it just propped up out of nowhere, when actually it's probably been months and years in the making, that your body has been trying its hardest to do what it does, which is to look after you and keep you healthy and to deal with whatever it is that you're doing to it. And then one day it just can't anymore. And that's exactly what's happening, you know, at a physical level with your body when it comes to this. Even though you're so focused on this one area and you're doing so well, it's everything else, all the other moments that are building up where you are letting yourself down, where you are putting something else first above yourself, even though you said that this is important to you. And because your body doesn't know the situation and the scenario, it just knows how it feels, it takes that on, and it takes it on every single time and goes, I sacrificed myself again now. I sacrificed myself again. I did another thing. Yep, that was me putting somebody else first again at my own expense. Again. And it feels that. And it builds up and it builds up until a point where it's like, well, clearly I have no integrity with myself. Clearly I can't stick to something that I want to do because I've given up my power in all of these situations over the past few weeks or months or whatever. So we're done. Right? And you wake up that morning and you stuff it all up because it's reached the point of overflow. So it's so sneaky because it looks like the two don't correlate. It can look like you're nailing one area completely and you don't understand where it props up from. This is one of the most frustrating things because you can be so proud of yourself, you can have come so far, and then it's like, holy shit, why am I here again? Why am I doing this again? I thought I was past this, right? And in many ways you are, but it's not realizing all of the smaller things, all of the more minute areas and patterns and routines that you have around other things and other parts of your life that you don't see it.